he noticed, he was like, I'm there before everybody else, before he even comes open up the gym. And he's like, you know how to mop? I'm like, yeah. Go mop these bathrooms. I started mopping the bathrooms. He saw I did a good job. He was like, go get a table and put it up front. Here's a cash box. You know how to, it's $5 to get in. You know how to take change? I'm like, yeah, I'm good in school. Okay, the next week I came. Here's some score sheets. Take them to the score table. Show them how to do this. Here's how the clock works. Well, by week 3, I knew how to run a tournament.
Today on the sideline, I'm talking with the sports executive, agent, and mentor. Travis King is up next. Welcome back to the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Sandy Adams, and this is where we dive deep into the world of sports, talking with retired athletes, current athletes, and everyone that makes the sports world work. Now, grab your iced tea or your coffee, get ready to be motivated and inspired because this is where the real stories are told. Today on the sideline, I'm talking with a senior sports and entertainment executive with more than 25 years of experience working in amateur sports, professional basketball, event development, and brand management. And he grew up right here in the Bluff City. I couldn't be more excited to welcome to the show. Travis King, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sandy.
And right now you're in sunny Arizona, correct?
I'm in Phoenix,
Phoenix.
Arizona. The sun is out and it's a beautiful day out here.
Yeah, not so much here. It's cloudy and yucky, but that's, I'm in Memphis, so that's all that matters, right?
Exactly, exactly. I'm there at heart. I got
That's
my
right.
Memphis stuff on, so I'm ready.
I see that.
Always repping.
I know that should be my motto, right? Okay, so I want to tell everybody. So, for those wondering how we know each other, I always like to share a little bit of information there. I actually think I met you through Instagram, like all these other Memphis people were following you. And
Right.
I had just moved back to town, and then we met for in person through the Memphis basketball program. So,
Exactly,
as
exactly. Yeah, it's exactly how it happened. And I saw you over there with the rebounders. You guys are doing a great job and,
we
making it
try.
work for the city. So no, it was definitely Instagram has opened the world to a lot of different people, to be able to network and connect with people you normally wouldn't have.
Exactly, very much so, and it really helped me when I moved back to Memphis, from Texas. It really helped me kinda get reconnected with the city and everybody in it. Well, let's kinda start off with, who is Travis King today?
Travis King today is a happy person, a father of 5, just someone who has had a lifetime experiences through sports and at a place in life where I really am at peace and love what I do and just enjoying being a father to the last 2 kids in the group. I've got 3 grown daughters that live in Brooklyn, LA, and Miami. So just really just enjoying life. A good peaceful person at this point.
Exactly. Where does your story actually begin?
It My story starts in Memphis. Grew up in Memphis. Was raised really in the Walker Homes community. My mother and my father were both born over there. They all attended Mitchell High School. All of my aunts and uncles did, and my dad moved us out to what would be called Hickory Hill now.
Yeah, right.
Used to be Ridgeway Estates back then. We moved there in the late 70s and we're one of the first Black families to move out there. So, grew up kind of between both areas and basketball. I played basketball the first time at 5 years old at the YMCA over off of Shady Grove. That was
Mhm.
my first experience. And the team actually, I'm friends with a couple of guys. I'm 51 now, so that was 46 years ago. I'm still friends with a couple of guys on the team. And we lost in the championship game the first year, and that was the worst hurt I'd ever felt in my little 5 years of life. And since that day, although I don't play anymore, I quit playing when I tore my Achilles a few years ago. Basketball's been a part of my life since then. Grew up, went to Kirby High School, played AAU with University of Memphis, coach Penny Hardaway, who's been a lifelong friend. We've known each other since 14. Um, Played back in the era of Memphis basketball when it was special. High
Yes.
school, we had 15 or 20 kids going D1. The Tigers were rocking and rolling with Dana Kirk and Coach Finch. And, I kind of went to Southern University down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, HBCU. And at the time, to backtrack a little, my dad and mom got divorced at 13. And really, the person that stepped into my life at that point was my AAU coach,
Right.
Bobby Dodd. And he guided not only me, so many guys, but William Anderson, who's my best friend, who's the AD at Lemoyne College. And he told us something profound one day when we were like 15 and we were refereeing some soccer games. And he said, and Penny was with us. He said, there's only two people in here that are going to make money off basketball. And that's Penny and me because he was the president of the AAU. And I was like, whoa, hold on, man. I'm number one point guard in the class of 91. Like, I'm going to the league. And at that point, we let Penny out to go home, he said, look, you guys you're good players, but you're not going to make it at pro. But if you listen to me, you'll be able to be around pro sports longer than they will as players.
Okay, who said that to you, Penny or the AD?
No, no, Bobby Dodd.
Okay.
He was all of our
Okay.
AAU coaches.
Okay. Okay.
Penny, William, and I. Yeah. And at that point, he allowed William and I, there was in 1990 five,
Mhm.
Nike came up with what now you would know as the Nike EYBL program.
Right.
Well, in 95, it was called just Nike Elite Youth Basketball. And there was only 20 programs in the country, and Memphis got one, and he was the one who received it. And he gave it to William and I to run at 23 years old,
Wow.
and we were going to meetings, and guys were 50s and 60s, and guys who were really, had been legends in the whole basketball world, and he threw us in the fire. And that's when we got in with Nike, started working and helping kids, taking the same kids in the program that we came up in
Sure.
and taking them on, around the country on trips and, and dealing with college coaches, dealing with their recruitment at such an early age, because we were still just in college.
Right.
And, learned how to drive the vans and get the hotel rooms. And, we grew up really quick in it. And, kind of in that space, you know, your next move was one of a few things back then. It was you can go into college coaching or be a high school coach,
Right.
or try to be, somewhere else in this space. And William chose to be a college coach. He was the women's coach at Lemoyne for maybe 10 years and the men's for maybe 6 or 7. And now he's the AD. And
Right.
I went into the agent space in 1999, 2000, right around then. Not officially as an agent, but just recruiting. And,
Right.
when my first player went to the NBA, Amari Stoudemire in 2002, then I went over to the pro side.
Okay, so let's back up to something. I've got a few questions out of everything
Sorry,
you
that
did.
was a lot.
It was. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes people don't
I'm
even
a
talk.
talker. I'm a talker. I'm sorry. I do that for a living.
I am too, so we'll be good. Okay.
Okay.
So, okay, now I got to wrap my head around. So, when you started in with the Nike AAU
Hmm.
circuit, what was the most shocking thing to you being in these rooms with all these older men?
It was just it was a different time then because sports marketing was just getting big. It
Right.
was like Michael Jordan was on the scene and people were wearing shoes. And then between Sonny Vaccaro, I don't know if you ever heard the story with Sonny Vaccaro and Nike and then George
Yes.
Raveling. So this was all going on. We were in that fire.
Right.
So it was just a different time. And us still being young men and dealing with men, it was, man, we got to earn our respect. We're from Memphis. We always, we're already looked down on from who we were. And our first team that we coach actually is somebody really well. Rodney Hamilton was
Yes.
was our point guard, and Lorenzen Wright was our center.
Yes. Yes.
And honestly, we weren't ready for it. I can tell you, we were in a tournament in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And the best thing that could have ever happened was Coach Dodd put Herb Wright, Lorenzen's dad, on the bench with us. And he
Right.
really taught us how to coach because Will and I are so competitive and we're best friends to this day, but we almost killed each other every day. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. So but it was great. We had a great team with those guys. We had Rodney. We coached Rodney from the time he was 14 all the way till he graduated. And obviously you
Right.
see to this day what relationships do. Rodney,
Yes.
I helped him, get the job over there his first year with when Penny was there. So, that's kind of what took us there. But it was just learning how to be men amongst men, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Was one of the biggest things we had to learn. We were really immature at that age, and these guys were some of them parents and grandparents, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
No, one thing that I learned when I moved back was that, it was just like a fluke thing that I joined the Rebounders. And then I basically stalked Marvin and Relis, the president and treasurer, literally stalked them until they invited me to join the board.
right.
But people ask me like, why are you on that booster club thing? And I'm like, I don't think you understand basketball. No matter what else the city is, it's a basketball town.
Absolutely.
And the relationships that I have fostered through basketball is like men, women, old, young, black, white, everything, all
Right.
different face. And it's to me the core of the city. And
Absolutely.
and you can learn so much, you can meet so many great people just by the sport of basketball. And it's just to me, it's just unbelievable. It really is.
Absolutely. I mean, at our greatest point, you got to think after, and I did a little video on this. After Dr. King died, Mayor Chandler, Wyatt Chandler at the time, said with that 73 Tiger team, it was the one thing that united the city.
It
And I
was.
think for coming out of segregation, since Memphis has been in the deep South and all the trouble it's gone through, it has consistently been the one thing that united our entire city. And
Mhm.
so you're right. It's fostered so many relationships. There's not a time I come home and I don't see somebody with their kids and like, hey, that was Coach King. I ain't
Right.
coached in 30 years, but the relationships and the impact that basketball, not only with what we did, but you guys like Frank Harris and guys like Norton Hurd and Penny when he was doing so many
Right.
people, Coach Tippett who just passed, so many great high school coaches that just that sport, and it's a good sports town, period. Football, good football players, but basketball has always been our thing.
It is. And it's funny because this podcast actually was started because, well, one, because of the rebounders, but because of basketball. So Michael Wilson, I'd met him one time. It was at Lorenzen's Jersey retirement
Right,
ceremony. And he reached out to me, it was over a year ago, and said, hey, I have this idea about doing a podcast. Would you like to do it with me? And I'm like, I wasn't an athlete, but
right.
it's more about careers and career pivots and how to find your next passion than it is about talking about, sports things that happened.
For
That
sure.
that's a part of it. And then Michael had to step back and I didn't necessarily think that I should continue it, but I decided to, and I love it. I love meeting all these people, and sports is the core thing, but it's so much about life. Like
Oh yeah,
there's
for
there's
sure.
so much about life. Um, so I did watch a thing. I watched because I was researching you,
Okay.
and and I watched this video you did with Doc Holliday, who, for those that don't know, he's the sports director for Channel 5 here in Memphis. And you
Mm.
said that basketball changed your life. And I'm sure it did for so many young men, but specifically, how did it change your life?
Oh man. I think again, I came up, I didn't miss any meals, but I did have to grow up quick. Once my father
Right.
left, it's typical story, it's just, one parent household. My mom worked her tail off and that's all I had. You know what I mean?
And
Like
you were 13, right?
13. And I
That's a
was
hard age. That's a really
tough,
hard.
tough,
Yeah.
tough age, trying to navigate life. And luckily again, and I think this is what people miss, like You have such a better chance when you come up in a two-parent household and you see what
Yeah.
love looks like and you see what discipline and what family looks like. And when you don't come from that, you have to search out for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So now, back then, we had so many guys that were mentors that would take on the kids just for the love of it. Whereas now it's gangs.
Right.
Gangs weren't as prevalent when I was growing up. But had they been, and had I lived in these times with the same situation, I probably would have been in a gang. I was
Right.
around a lot of a lot of tough stuff during those times, and at the end of the day, with my coach seeing something in me and saying like, hey, you're a pretty smart kid, and I didn't even know he was training me to do the things that he was like. Because just a story, like at 13, I couldn't drive. My mom worked on Saturdays. She worked at 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift. She'd go get
Wow.
something to
Yeah.
eat and she'd go. She worked all week, but even on Saturdays when we had games, she'd work two jobs. So my granddad would have to drop me off at the YMCA. And now we're at 13, we're over at Ridgeway playing, and he dropped me off at 7 in the morning. My game might not be until 3 o'clock, and I'd have to wait until my mom got off at 7 to get me picked up. So I'm at the gym from 7 to 7 with $5 to last all day, figure it out. And one day he noticed, he was like, I'm there before everybody else, before he even comes to open up the gym. And he's like, you know how to mop? I'm like, yeah. Go mop these bathrooms. I started mopping the bathrooms. He saw I did a good job. He was like, go get a table and put it up front. Here's a cash box. You know how to, it's $5 to get in. You know how to take change? I'm like, yeah, I'm good in school. Okay, the next week I came. Here's some score sheets. Take them to the score table. Show them how to do this. Here's how the clock works. Well, by week 3, I knew how to run a tournament. And
Right.
really, on week 4, he had to go out of town. He said, "You're in charge." At 13 years
At
old.
13?
Yeah, and that was the key to me learning. Like, my mom's working. I get a check at the end of the week and it was $200 as a 13-year-old. So it's
Wow.
like, oh, I can come play my game and still work all day because I'm gonna be up here anyway. Oh,
Right.
this is something I can do. So I really learned a job skill and event management and dealing with people and politics and learning how to customer service, like all
Mhm.
these things I was learning from him by just being in the gym. So I
Right.
took that again, and it was basketball. My first flight. We were talking about this the other day. I was with Billy Smith, Anthony Douglas, who played for the University of Memphis,
Right.
Todd Day. We all flew on a trip to L.A., and our first game was against Alonzo Mourning. Our next game was against Sean Kemp. And I was 14 years old, and it was our first flight. And I was telling my kids, we were cheap. We had a small budget, so we're on the flight and we're in the back. All of us are in the back, and they're smoking cigarettes in the back of the plane.
Oh my god,
They're
that's
like,
really
"Dad, they done smoke cigarettes." I go, "Nah." And in 1986, they were smoking cigarettes in the
Yeah,
back of the plane. And
they were.
these are things that I still remember. That was my first
Yeah,
trip on a plane. Now, fast forward, basketball's taken me to 27 countries. I've been to
that's
China 3
crazy.
times, Africa, a little kid from Walker Home. So when I say it's done everything for me in
Mhm.
life, that it could, outside of playing in the NBA and making $100 million, it's been great to me and great to my family.
So you mentioned, you went to college. I looked up, you went to college in Baton Rouge to Berry University, Berry
No,
College?
I went to Southern
Southern,
University.
that's right, Southern.
and
Berry's in
and I
Miami.
I graduated from Barry. I ended up leaving school, um, fell in love, and got married. Left
Right.
school and ended up graduating from Barry University.
Did you play basketball at Southern?
Yeah, I was a point guard. We were claim to fame '93. Our '93 team was the first HBCU to ever beat a Power Five conference team in the NCAA tournament. We beat Georgia Tech in 1993 out in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
so
why did you pick Southern? Why didn't you stay here and go to Memphis?
Uh, I wanted to so bad, and at the time, and Coach Finch told me this. RIP Coach Finch. I probably was going to get the scholarship. It was down to me and Marcus Nolan, who played at
Yeah.
Hamilton,
Mhm.
and they won the state championship,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
signed he and they had some good players coming behind him. And it was great. I love my time in Southern. It was the better experience for me. And it's really you know, I was looking at a few more schools, but my granddad really wanted me to have that HBCU experience,
Mhm.
and I'm glad I did.
No, and you got out, I think that sometimes going away actually gives you a better perspective
For
than
sure.
just staying in the city. And there's been a couple of other basketball players. Rodney Newsom was one of them. He said that he wished he'd kind of gone to a different school. He thought he would have been a better athlete.
I don't know. I'm still mad. I wish I would have played for the Tigers. I love Marcus. No, he's a great dude, but I deserve that scholarship. But I love Southern too. But my whole life I wanted to play for the Tigers. So
Ah, yes,
yeah,
yes. Okay, so what sparked? So you mentioned you got hurt, your Achilles. You tore your Achilles. Was that in
yeah.
college or was that?
No, no, no. That
Okay,
was
okay,
me.
okay,
That was me being a weekend warrior in
okay.
my 40s.
Okay, so what sparked your passion for representing athletes specifically?
Just really, coaching them, like
Mhm.
being a part of their lives. Like Antonio Burke, there's so many kids that play for the University of Memphis that Will and I used to pick up in the projects. We'd ride through Lemoyne Gardens, we go through Hearst Village,
Yeah,
back when they had projects, and driving trucks and picking these kids up and taking them out of bad situations and getting them into college, and seeing guys like Burke, seeing guys like Lorenzen, seeing guys like Sean Williams go to the NBA, and knowing that we had a part of it, and that was just kind of the natural progression is like, hey, agents do the same thing, they negotiate contracts, but you really are part of building someone's career. And I saw myself raising these kids in the gym and picking them up and making sure they eat for 8, 9 years. And at the end, an agent will come in and don't know as much as I do about basketball or negotiation, or the kid do some paperwork and get paid off of them, and then
yeah,
don't only use the kid for what they can do. And then when the kid's down and out, they come back to me looking for an
right.
advice or anything. So I said, why don't I just get on that side of it?
Sure. So, what has been in your career so far? What has been, or has there been a setback that really made you question what you were doing?
Yeah, it was, and it really wasn't. This business is a tough business. Let me
Mhm.
say,
It
you
is.
got to understand. There's only 450 players in the NBA, and there's 1,300 agents registered in the world. You
Oh
know what
my
I mean?
God. Yes.
And you still have the top 10 companies that represent 75% of the players. So
Right.
it's just not a lot of players out there. So when you get them, it's hard to get them, and it's even harder to keep them, right?
Right.
And our company at my highest point was 2015. I had 11 players. Amari was, 6-time All-Star. I had, Rodney Hood coming up for a contract, Cameron Payne, Robert Covington, and at the same time, I was going through a divorce, and our company was going through a takeover, and it was just chaotic, right?
Right.
And at that point, our company split. We were the biggest basketball agency in the world. We had 56 clients. So it was all in the news every day. So our company split. And
Right.
then it split again. Like the two guys that end up staying on this side, they split. So it was so much chaos that those players were like, man, I love you. You've helped me with my career, but I got a contract coming up. It's too chaotic over here. So losing players when you work your ass off and do everything right, and it's not your fault, but you're not the owner of the company, you're an
Right.
employee,
Right.
and you just catch, you're a victim of circumstance. Along with the divorce, it was just like, because I think a lot of that was led by, I had 11 clients, all of them want attention. Well, there's only 30 days in a month. So
Right.
trying to see everybody, your family gets sacrificed some. So it was just that balance of everything that was going on. I never wanted to quit the business, but I was losing clients that I had been with for so many years, and when they're about to get paid, and they go with somebody else, and
Yeah.
the other person gets paid and didn't know them for 2 months. They just had a shiny company and they just did a big deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those were the times it was like, man, what am I really doing this for? Like, because you get so emotionally tied in, or at least I do, because once I sign you, we're family. Like,
Right.
I'm there at birthdays, I'm there at surgeries, kids getting born. When you have to go have a major surgery, when you get arrested, whatever the case may be, I feel like I'm there because your parents trusted me to work with you in your
Sure.
career, and I'm going to treat you just like I would treat my own children or myself.
So, how did you regroup from that whole situation?
Honestly, I have a really strong faith. And I've got a core group of people, if I have a major decision or a problem, there's people I
Right.
know that will give me non-judgmental advice, right? Older, and none of them had an answer. And I called my pastor, my elder, who is in Chicago, and
Mhm.
I talked to him, and he's very cut and dry. He's not going. He don't believe in sob stories,
Right.
and I said, man, I don't know what's going on, brother Bowie. I said, I had 11 clients, I only got two. You got two? Well, you need to strap up and get on your
Mhm.
horse and be glad. Thank God you still have two. And then he asked me, do you think you have it worse than Job? And I'm like, I know the story of Job. What do you mean? Nah, you need to read Job. If you call me back and tell me you got it worse than Job, then we need to work on it. But if not, man, just dust yourself off and come on. And that was July 15th, July 16th, 2018. Hadn't had a bad day since then. So
Hey,
it's just digging into your faith and knowing like somebody, it's always gonna turn, it's not gonna rain forever.
no, it's not. And, I went through my mother dying and a divorce within 3 months of each other back in 2017. And then Houston flooded. I was there when Houston flooded too.
Right.
Um, and for me, people ask me how I got past it. And I said, well, one, I just gave myself grace. I
Mm,
just took each day as it came and tried to focus on what I could change and just
mhm.
tried to move forward and not
Yeah.
put so much pressure on myself. But um, there are wise words in everything that he told you, and it's very true. You just have to look at what you have and not what you don't have. And I think a
Right.
lot of times people focus on what they don't have too
Right.
much, um, and
Absolutely.
and don't look at what they do have and everything they have going for them. Um, so let's fast forward to uh, talking about athletes
Okay.
and how do you balance that high pressure demand now of your job while maintaining your own well-being? I follow your Instagram, so I see some of the things you do. I can kind of pick up on them. But for all of our listeners, like how do you handle that balance?
Uh I don't know that I do handle it. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm a full-time dad too, but you know, you gotta have boundaries, but then again, there still aren't any because it's a service business. You know what
It
I mean?
is.
Like
It
they pay
is.
us for service and to be there for them. And it's a lot of times, I don't want my kids talking on the phone or being distracted when we're eating, but I have to take a call, because
Right.
there's like, for instance, the other day, I was about to fly to go see a particular client. I'm missing my son's soccer game, which is fine. They got their butt beat anyway, but Uh, and I'm at the airport and I just had a little procedure, so I'm not really feeling good, but I need to go see the
Right.
client. Not, don't want to fly. I'm at the airport and boom, I get a call from him and his mom 10 minutes before boarding. Hey, I just got traded. I'm like, whoa. All right. So now you gotta
Oh
shift
my
in.
goodness.
You gotta
Yeah.
shift in. All right, boom. Like, let's go do this. Hey, hold on. Let me reroute this flight. Let me go get myself together. So, you try your best to balance, but it's always something moving.
Sure.
And, I just try my best at when I'm away from it and I'm with my kids, I try to, enjoy them and raise them. And, when I need to be on full go, like right now, it's basketball season, so it's
Right.
go mode. I just work out and try to just, keep peace with that. That's it, man. You can't, there's no sleep for the weary on this. You got to go to it.
I know. My sister and she has a graphic design firm up in Boston, and she's like, I don't understand. Why are you working at night? I'm like, well, I have clients that have issues, or, I have coaching clients that can't work during the day. They can't have a Zoom call with me during the day, and it has to be in the evening. And it's not, I think a lot of jobs now are not so much, not 8 to 5. They're more
Right.
like, especially in the service industry, when it's customer service like that in dealing with people. Um,
Yeah.
let's focus
24/7.
exactly. So negotiations,
Okay.
obviously that has to be high pressure, right? So what's the secret to advocating for your clients and still maintaining that good customer relationship?
Well, I mean, in any negotiation, the best negotiation when both sides feel like each other won, right?
Right, right.
It's not going to always happen like that, but the one thing you have to take out is just emotion, because
Mhm.
sometimes you are negotiating against people that you consider friends. Like
Right.
it's somebody I was dealing with last summer that I've known 25 years that I felt they really, were lowballing our player, and we couldn't come to an agreement. And initially, I was like, I can't believe he do us like that. But again, it's business. So
Right,
once you eliminate the fact of emotion and know that there's no loyalty in sports, the best get traded, the best. Don't always get the best contracts. When you can eliminate all of that and then just deal strictly with the facts and fight for your client to the end. You're going to always do what's in their best interest, and you're going to always, advocate for them and make sure if you shake whatever kind of change that the company has in their pockets, if it's available for them, you go for that and start there, and you can move backwards.
so how do you identify a client that you think you would work well with?
Now it's a lot different than when it was when you first get into business. When you first get into business, you'll take anybody. You just
Right.
want a client, you know what I mean? But and they're the worst ones because they're the ones
Right.
who actually can't play but think they can.
And there's a lot of
Um,
those.
oh man, so many. But now I think a client with what I would say me and my business partner, David Bauman, and I look for first just quality people. You
Mhm.
know, um, I want to look at how you were raised. Not necessarily you have to have mom and dad in home because my biggest client now, his parents were divorced, but they both were
Right.
great co-parents in his life. I want to look at, do you care about education? That didn't matter in the past. The NBA is looking for quality people, smart people, people that don't make, what I'm saying, are not going to mess up the brand. And I
Right.
think now the clients that I do look for are guys that aren't into everything off the court. They're focused on basketball and want to be great.
Right.
They're not, I used to just love guys that had so much personality and they like to be in fashion and this and music. Nah, the best clients that I have now, all they want to do is play basketball. They don't,
Right.
they halfway don't have girlfriends. Like they just want to be great. And I think when you find somebody that's chasing greatness like that, you can just add so much value to what they are, and they're self motivated. So self motivated, quality people, people that come from strong family backgrounds. Because if you do them right, take care of the business right, that client will be with you forever because they're
Sure.
not going to just run for money or run because this person said they can do something, more for you. Because we deal with that every day. Just
Right.
because you have a client, agents are calling your clients some kind of way through a friend, through another player every day. So,
Mhm.
you really have to build a lot of trust, and that trust has to be earned over time. And the only way you can earn it is to, we try not to overpromise. We try to under promise and over deliver every time.
How do you, when you've identified a client, then how do you start building that trust factor?
Um, Communication, time. can only build trust over time, right? So, I have never been a person that recruits blindly off of looking at a mock draft. Oh,
Right.
James Jones is at Ole Miss. Let me try to go down there and
Right.
find him. Pretty much, and I've had, I think, 22 players drafted over my career that
Mhm.
I've worked with, and I would probably say 20 of those were off relationships that I fostered. And just by, seeing those kids come up and
Right.
building a true friendship with their family, them seeing what type person I am, seeing how I conduct business. And when it was time, then I was always in the mix in the recruiting process. Didn't win them all, but, you give yourself a better chance when they know you as a person and as a business person, as opposed to just a initial Zoom meeting, and then we come and do a meet and greet, show you this pretty book and tell you
Yeah.
everything. That's just not my flow. I don't work like that.
Right. What do you believe is the most misunderstood part of athletes when what they go through off the court or off the field?
I think what people are missing on them now is a lot of them struggle with mental health,
Mhm.
like everybody. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I think there's so much, and again, I have to be careful how I say this.
That's
I am
okay.
so glad I work in this world, and the entertainment space is one of the most lucrative for people's clients. But doctors deserve to be paid more, teachers deserve to be paid
Right.
more, firemen, policemen. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people that are underpaid for what they bring to society. But for entertainment, we all need that to feel good because we work hard and go through so
Right.
much stuff. It makes us feel good, right? And they think, oh, they're just playing sports. Well, they do work their bodies. It's great that you can stay in
Mm.
shape, but it's tough on the travel. But the more important stuff is the off the court.
Right.
Having 20 people coming at you for money, always having to worry if somebody have true intentions when they're trying to deal with you, people trying to steal your money,
Sure.
sometimes people trying to kidnap you. I mean, just
Mhm.
rob you. It's so many, like you see the kid in San Francisco that got robbed and
Yeah.
shot. um but the mental health part, just when it's always like, when I'm taking care of everybody else, who's taking care of me, who's checking on me,
Right.
really? You know what I mean? And I think that, and a lot of them are so young, in such a young league. People don't communicate like we used to. We used to
No,
have
they
to
don't.
talk. Instead, now they just scroll and they type, and
Do. They do.
so they don't know how to truly express themselves. And everybody, no one wants, especially in sports, football, basketball, you don't want to seem weak, right? You don't
Right.
want to go talk to a therapist, which, is totally not weak. It's really strength, because it's allowing you to get stuff off of your mind with somebody unbiased that can actually give you some ways to deal with those things. So I think the mental health part is what people don't understand. You, like, again, you get paid a lot of money, you want to sign autographs. It's always good. I always commend my guys on autographs, but at the right time. Sometimes a guy
Sure.
could just, we sat down, he signed 50 autographs, finally get to sit down. He's had a terrible game, got something going on in his life, and people, hey, excuse me, can I get an autograph right now? You know, not knowing what's going on,
Right. Right.
and it's just there on somebody else's time. But that's what comes with it too, right? I mean,
Sure.
that's part
Sure.
of it. But I think the mental health part is the main thing that people don't understand about it.
You look at these young boys, especially if they've got a lot of talent. So, say 13, 14 years old. And what they don't realize as they grow, as they age, their circle gets so much smaller with who
Hmm.
they can trust.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of them realize that. They don't necessarily know at that young age how to look at people and realize, do they really want me, or do they really want what I represent? Okay.
Hmm.
And then if we're talking about young men growing up, then you've got, and I'm probably going to get slammed for this, but that's okay. You've got all these women that want to latch on to.
Right.
Okay.
It's a fact.
It is a fact. And I didn't necessarily, I was aware of all this, but I don't think I visually could see all of it until I started having events with Coach Hardaway. And
Hmm.
I saw how, he will stay until the last person gets an autograph.
Right.
But I also see, like, he's got I may know he's got other things going on. He may be really tired, and all these other people don't know it, and I just started seeing the toll it takes, and then you realize that that's what happens, and then you think about all these guys that, yeah, we're worried about, they have things going on in their life just like everybody else,
Right.
but they're having to deal with it in the spotlight, which is a whole nother dimension. And
Exactly.
and it's not just playing basketball. It's a mental thing as well. You have to have confidence in yourself in order to shoot those balls, in order
Exactly.
to do the drills, in order to go up against other competitors. And I think I absolutely agree with you on the mental aspect. And I do wish more people talked about it. I think that it is, I forgot the basketball guy. I can't remember who. He came out just a few years ago and talking about how the issue he had with mental health. I do
Kevin
think,
Love, maybe.
yes, Kevin Love,
Yeah.
yes. And I do think Simone Biles in the Olympics 4 years ago, I think that that was a big eye opening to a lot of people. And she did
Hmm.
it in front of the whole world, which in some ways, I actually am glad that happened for her.
Hmm.
I'm also glad it happened for a lot of other people. So as we talk about the athletes, how do you help them transition when their careers are going downward? How do you help them transition and find something else off? Or is that part of what you do as well? How do you help
It
them?
it is, and we try to find that thing before you get to that
Mm.
point.
Right,
After you solidify yourself in the league and you've played for a while and you've got enough your first paycheck where it's going to be good enough to take care of you, manage your money the rest of your life.
right.
Start finding out what your passion is outside of basketball. And
Hmm.
some guys, that's very hard because
It is.
everyone thinks they're going to play forever. And eventually, Father Time is undefeated. I think you can see it with LeBron now, and he's played longer
Yeah.
than anybody. But I think you've got to kind of find that now.
Hmm.
As you get into year 3 or year 4, and you can see yourself having a 10, 12-year career, start finding out what it is you want to do now. And I think our league and our union have done a great job with that because they do provide so many programs like the Sportscaster School now. They
I
have
saw that. I
they got
saw
a
that.
fashion school. They have a tech investment school. They've got so many different avenues that guys can go in the summer, and they'll pay for it for you to go. And I think the fashion piece is in Italy.
Right.
Where they can really be around designers and be around brands and things of that nature. But they got the coaching and general management academy, and it's like a big fraternity. If you do right and keep your nose clean in the NBA, there's something for you post retirement
Right.
in there. So I think that just getting your guys to understand, like, okay, you definitely want you to be, tuned in on your craft. But hey, in the off season, let's start to do some things that you
Hmm.
you can find, in your heart you can see yourself doing later. Now, some guys, Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed don't want to do anything. He made enough money. He wants to do what Rasheed wants to do. So, and that's fine. You know what I mean? He made enough money to do that. He don't want to
That's
do
right.
anything post career, but enjoy life, and that's a dream for everyone, right? So
Sure.
I think it's kind of finding out really what you see yourself wanting to do,
Hmm.
but trying to find that, do that during your career as opposed to when it's over, and then trying to
Right.
be like, oh, I don't have to go to practice today. What am I going to do? Because a lot of guys go into depression after that.
Yeah. So let's talk about NIL. Um, how has that changed the way you think and work with younger athletes now? It's a loaded question, right?
Man, thank God for NIL. I just think they got to figure it out. You know what I mean?
They do.
It's been a blessing for families. It's long overdue. I think that once the system gets figured out, then
Mhm.
it'll be something that'll be really good for athletes and families. How it's worked for us, back in the day before NIL, some of these kids, like, they're their only family's hope,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And whether they were ready for the NBA or not, they just go, or NFL. They just, if they had any kind of indication that they were going to get picked, they'd go.
Right.
Well, now you can give clients a lot more data and a lot more intel. Like, hey, man, get better. It's even
Mhm.
better for you. Go get your degree, play another year and get as much NIL money as you can and continue to work on your craft. And when you're ready, you don't have to jump just for money now because you
Right.
make enough money. If you're at that level, you're going to make enough money more than the average 1% in whatever city you're in. So
Right.
you're going to be in a position that you don't have to rush it. You can continue to get your education. You continue to get better on the court, right? And learn how to be a professional and then enjoy college life just a little bit more. So I think what it's done for us, it's allowed us to truly guide them, you know, with decisions that's not financially based, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to be financially based anymore. If you're not a top five, top 10 pick, some of these schools, you're making enough NIL money, you'd be making exactly what the 29th pick would be making, right?
Sure. Sure.
So why even take that chance? Just go ahead. And I think it's allowed us to just be a lot more because you got agents like, oh man, you got to come right now. Some people will do anything for a client just to
Yeah.
get them. But I'm not like that. I operate like if it was my child.
Mhm.
So NIL's been great. I think it makes for agents, it makes us work a lot younger now because
Mhm.
I'm about to sign a high school player probably today, basketball player. Yeah, so now you have to sign, whereas we couldn't even sign college players, now we can sign
Sure.
high school and college players.
Right.
So it's great for us, but at the same time, you know, even the guys you sign, there's only 45 jobs available a year in
That's
our
right.
league.
That's right.
45 in the world. So, you really want them now, but the blessing with NIL is a kid could go to school 4 years, and if he's a really good player, he can walk out of there with 1.5, $2 million earned. And who can say that?
So let me ask you this because I've heard this discussion going around lately. So you've got these kids that are making that amount of money in college with NIL.
Hmm.
What's their motivation to go to the league?
Well, that's just a drop in the bucket of if you see nothing in life, you got to love whatever you do, right?
Sure.
Like,
Exactly.
and again, the guys that you see in the NBA that only play for money, you only see for a few years.
That's right.
You know what I mean? The people
Mhm.
that you see in restaurant business, if it's only for money, you don't see them but for a few years. So
Right.
whatever your passion is in life, whatever industry is, you got to put that work in for it. And it don't need to seem like work. So I think people will say that there's a lot of people now. Here's the thing, Sandy. There's a lot of kids that are getting overpaid that have no right to get paid some of the money they do because they don't love the game.
Right.
They love what money, basketball can do for them as opposed to loving basketball and the opportunity, right?
Right. Right.
So, I think, why would they want to work if they're making 500? Well, they can look up and see Luca's about to make 400 million on his next contract at 25. So that,
Right.
me getting 500,000, yeah, that's a lot of money, but I could be going if I really work at this and I've got that type talent making $55 million a year. That's where the league is.
Sure. How
Yeah.
do you when you're approached by a high school student, so how do you talk to the high school student and their parents? How do you talk to them about protecting their brand? Because, I'm guessing junior, senior in high school is when you would probably start talking to them.
Right.
How do you talk to them about because they are young and they may not necessarily understand that or their parents. How do you talk to them about protecting that brand and making the most out of what they have?
Right. Same way I would talk to a college kid or talk to, a rookie in the league. Like your brand is everything. People are always watching, you know what I mean? So you have to watch your social media, even though you can express yourself when you're younger, don't have curse words in in the music that you play. Don't, you know, everybody throws signs. Don't do all of that stuff. Just understand that people are watching, brands are watching, NBA and college people are watching at all times. So don't do anything your parents wouldn't be proud of you doing is basically the motto, you know. And again, if it's a kid that's doing all that, I'm not dealing with them anyway.
Right.
So I'm not even having those type conversations with those people. Most of the people, if it's a high school kid we're targeting, like he's one that we've already researched and know he fits what we want to do, you know, and
Right.
his family fits what we want to do, and we're all on the same page. And we all have to be because we work as a group. They don't just turn him over as an agent.
Sure.
We are very inclusive because we are a team. You
Right.
know your child better than we have. We only gotten to know them. We've got to earn everyone's trust. You know when's the right time to ask him to go do a photo shoot. This
Right.
might not be the right time. So we have to all be aligned on that. So those type of, things like we and parents don't seek some seek you out, but more importantly, we target who we want more than that.
Right.
If a parent has to seek me out, more than likely at this point, they're not where at that level. But top kids, people are seeking them out.
Right. How do you find the new prospects? Do you just look at the the Nike EYBL circuit? Do you look at the AAU stuff? Like how do you
Well,
identify
I
them?
go I go to a lot of games, and I've got a lot of people I trust that are EYBL directors. But more importantly, like I do try to follow the Nike path just
Mhm.
because 85% of those kids, 85% of the US born kids in the NBA all played in the Nike program. So
Oh.
that's where the fishing hole is if you're gonna go. Yeah, so and I've been a Nike guy again since '94. So
Right.
I don't really go too far. Other companies are cool, but I really kind of stay this family with me.
Sure. It goes back to loyalty.
Absolutely.
What's been your proudest moment so far as a sports agent?
Proudest moment as a sports agent.
Or
Man,
in your sports job altogether? Like what's been your proudest moment so far?
probably probably 2010, 2011. Like Amari Stoudemire lived with me while he was in high school, and you know he went from a kid that was not ranked to the number one player in high school. He went straight to the NBA, won Rookie of the Year. He was the first high school to pro player to ever do that. To see him go from where he came from to sign in 2010, we signed $100 million deal with the Knicks, and then the following year I negotiated a huge contract with Nike, just knowing that the kid and the key thing in that it would have never happened if it wasn't for Coach Hardaway.
Really?
I'll tell you the story. Amari was in the 10th grade, and I'd put him at a new school that was racially challenged,
Right.
okay, in Florida, West Orange High School. And first day of school, and people always say, he's a bad kid, da 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 da, and he wasn't. Never was around me or my family, but we put him, and this is the first time I'm enrolling him in school. So this is our
Right.
first school experience. And I get a call literally 2 hours after dropping him off. Hey, Amari suspended. I'm like,
Oh my
what?
god. Oh my god.
I go to the school and I'm like, what did he do? And the teacher was yelling at him. He was showing off in gym, dunking and stuff. And the teacher yelled at him, give me the ball. And he had the ball and his hands were so big, he kind of
Yes.
did like that and pulled it back. And she said that was an assault attempt on her.
Oh my god.
Eh, Wrong school to send him to.
Sure.
And pulled him back, and he did something else. And I was like, and I'm married, young kids, taking on this new kid in my
Mm.
house, and my wife at the time's like, well, nah, we can't do this.
Right.
And I picked up the phone. Penny was playing for the Phoenix Suns. And I called him. I said, man, you are the only person I know that had anywhere near a story like him coming out of nowhere, becoming
Right.
be a player. Da, 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 da. This kid has got it. He's in the 10th grade, but if he doesn't talk to somebody and see some promise, like he's gonna go down the pipe. Penny gave me 2 tickets to fly out there, and when we pulled up his house in Paradise Valley, Amari's looking at the house, and Penny had two new Mercedes that still had plastic on the head seats with the 1 cent logo on it. And he looked at that and looked at the house. And he looked at me and said, Coach King, you ain't never got to worry about me one more time.
Oh, that's making me cry.
And him and Penny talked to him all weekend, played video games with him, and we went and watched him play. And the crazy thing is, the year he got drafted, they ended up being there together.
Aw, that's so cool. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
great story. It's a great story about, just life's not easy, and
no,
you can't judge people by everything, and you have to you have to, like, try to figure things out.
yeah,
How tall was he when he was in 10th grade?
6'9".
Wow.
Yeah, he was best high school big man I've ever seen.
So,
35 years.
I look at these young kids that are that tall, they have to deal with, like, not only being better than everybody else in their talent, but then their stature,
Right.
and they're so much bigger than everybody else, but they're still a kid.
Yeah, and they have confidence issues. It's hard to
Yes.
find clothes. It's what I mean. Like everybody else is short, but he came a long way, and he turned out to a great father, great player. He did really well for himself.
Well,
So
that's
that
a
would
great
probably be my greatest moment is seeing, remembering him at 15, and then seeing him, be the king of New York in
right.
2010.
How do you stay connected with your Memphis community here with living in Arizona?
Well, I just moved here in May, and from Memphis, so I've lived everywhere, but I've always come back. My family there, my best friends are there. Still do work with Penny, and some other endeavors I have there. So, yeah, Memphis is always home. I'd probably still be there had my kids not lived in Arizona, my younger kids. So I moved here to kind of get them across the line, and probably
Sure.
will. I don't know. I was saying I was gonna build me a house in Olive Branch and a little ranch or something, but it's hard to give up this. It's hard to give up this sunshine and this good weather out here.
I know, when I moved back here from Houston, I lived there for 16 years, and when I moved back, it's the winters that I have the hardest time with,
Yeah,
here in
yeah,
Memphis, but, it's the people, though, and I gotta say the sports. It's the people and the sports and the food that make it all worthwhile, and I wasn't born here. I was born in McKenzie, Tennessee, which is just north of Jackson, so
right.
I came here to go to college, and to me, it's home.
Yeah,
This is my home.
it'll
Uh
always be home for me.
Exactly. So where does your strong faith come from?
Uh, Initially from my grandmother. My
Mm,
grandmother was. I spent a lot of time with her because, again, my mom worked a lot. So did my
right.
dad when he was around. And my grandmother, first book she ever made me read was the Bible, and I've read the Bible since I was a kid, and um, I just know m- my story, and I know how life goes, and I know that the Most High like really
Mm,
had something bigger for me, and I know that with that something comes forward. So I try to always reverence him and continue to learn and try my best to do the things that I can to do that. And
right.
nobody's perfect. I'm definitely not a saint, but I do really stand on my faith, and I instill that in my kids, too.
Okay. You talked about your 5 kids. So you have 4 daughters,
Or
and what what has being a girl dad taught you besides patience?
man, patience. When you get 13, you're an Uber driver in an ATM. When you get 15, you're just dad, and they're with their mom and shopping, and
Right.
they circle back. Nah, girl dad's been the best thing. Like, um, you know, my daughters are so such unbelievable. They're all different, but they are such unbelievable and driven
Mm,
women. Like, my oldest daughter, she's an executive vice president for a PR company. Her biggest account is Samsung. The other one under her works for Spotify in Brooklyn. She's an exec. And then the baby of that group is in Miami, just moved on the beach. And she works for the company that the oldest one works for and following her path. They all three graduated from Florida State. So just knowing that, and me and their mom split up. uh, oh, 20 years ago, maybe, or
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
but co-parented great, went on vacation together, and they're just some unbelievable girls. So it taught me patience. It taught me, that they were always watching me, and to always, try to show them what a man that they should be
Right.
like, and treat them, to be independent thinkers, yet, also know that, you know, even though it didn't work out with me and your mom, there's nothing better than having your person. And I thought I would have had a grandkid or so by now, but, no rush. They're traveling the world, they doing their thing. So now, being a girl dad's a lot easier, because the baby boy I prayed for, he's a rough one. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's talk about your son. How old is he now?
He's 9. He'll be 10 Saturday.
Is he like 10 going on 20?
10 going on 30. Yeah, it's a war over here right now with me and him.
So I saw a video, he was out practicing his soccer. So what's
Mhm.
been your best advice to him in regards to athletics that he's actually listened to and taken?
Well, with Judah, and I hate to say this because I'm definitely not that dad. Like, none of my kids play real sports up until him. Well, excuse me, my daughter plays flag football and volleyball, but nobody's been as driven with it as him. He started playing soccer when he was 2,
Right,
and for years recently, and soccer is a sport that you can turn pro at 13.
right.
People have said he's a phenom, and he is really, really good. I will say, because I didn't play the sport, but you can tell talent. He's really good, and he's always worked at it. He's always watched European soccer, so it's obviously was something in him, because I just introduced the game to him to get his footwork for basketball. That's all I was trying to do. But
Uh,
we had a knockdown maybe 3 weeks ago, and the video game is a major problem for you, probably kids all over the world.
it is.
And that Fortnite has him and his buddies in a chokehold. And you know, I went to a tournament, and he plays 2 years up. So
Wow.
he's on a team, on a select team, but there's a kid on our team that's actually 20 months older than him. So he's playing kids. He's in the 4th grade. He's playing against 6th graders
Oh my
right
God.
now. And he's always been the best of them. And I noticed that he was taking a step back, and that he's just playing the video game, whereas he used to come outside and do wall kicks for an hour. He'd get up in the morning and go run. All he wants to play is the game. And I showed him a video with Nick Saban talking, and then I showed him one with Devin Booker talking about sacrifice.
Mm,
And I said, son, don't tell me one more time you want to go pro if you're not willing to sacrifice. Like, I want you to be a kid. Like,
right,
I'm not going to be Joe Jackson, but I do understand pro sports. You're not going to get there playing a video game and
right,
not working on your
right.
craft. And he talked like, and I said, well, Dad, how long do you think is fair? And I said, if you can play 2 hours, a day, that's it. And he said, that's fine. I want to go pro. I don't even want to go to college. I want to turn pro at 15. I said, well, we're going to invest in that. But the minute that you don't show it, it's
Right,
fine. Just play rec, have fun with it. But like, you can't tell somebody that works in pro sports, I'm not going to let you lie to yourself. I'm not
right,
that bad.
right,
That's
right.
what you want to do. Focus on it. We can come to agreement. So that was the best piece of advice. Like, you got to sacrifice a lot if you want to be a pro.
Right.
Period. A
Sure.
lot of your childhood you got to sacrifice.
Sure. I've heard a few other people, friends of mine who are coaches, that have talked about the effect of video games on young kids now.
Um,
That, when back in the good old days, when, they would all go outside and play or hoop or whatever. And now you've got kids that just want to sit in the house and play video games, and they think that they just go play a pickup game and that's all they need to do.
they will sit online with those headphones on. Now, granted, his best friend my best friend William and his son and my son are best friends.
Aw.
So they got the headphones on.
Yes,
So that's how interaction they get to see each other because they don't live close. I get it. But these kids will sit there for 14, 15 hours
they
straight
will.
and just play and it mesmerizes them. So I think it's a problem with everyone's household, including mine at the beginning. So he's with his mom right now. When he comes back, his birthday's Saturday, starting Monday. There's a new there's a, there's we're going into 2025 with a whole new law and order over here. Like,
Oh my god.
like I'm taking the game out of the room. We got a starter, we got a timer on it. When 2 hours is up, it's gone. That's it till you get trained.
It's almost like I would say that they're almost like an addiction or they are an addiction.
It
It's almost
is.
like gambling because you just wouldn't keep the other funny thing, and I didn't realize this. So where I sit in FedEx Forum for the games, there's two guys that sit behind me. They're probably in their mid-20s. They talk the whole game. They commentate the whole game. And I'm like, "Oh my god, I wish they just shut up because they are literally right behind my head. So there was
Right.
a lady sitting next to me the other day, and I was like, "I wish they would shut up," and she turned around and she said, "They're probably gamers." And I'm like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
And she said, "They probably play video games, so to them, they're used to talking." And I was like,
Right.
"That explains it."
Yeah. These kids will even watch guys playing video games. They'll sit down
Yes,
and watch other people playing video games.
and they'll pay to watch other people play
Oh
video
yeah.
games.
Yeah.
It's
It's
crazy.
yeah.
Okay, we're almost finished. Looking back at high school and college, what would you say were your three biggest struggles, and what would what would have been good for you to have had to help you overcome those struggles?
Number one, broke. So if NIL would have been around, I wouldn't have gone to Southern. I'd have went to a Power Five school, and I wouldn't have been broke. That's the end of it.
Okay,
Everything else was been fine.
I love
Like,
that. I love
yeah,
that.
I
I
was
love that.
broke. Like when I say broke, like we didn't have anything. My mom and dad, excuse me, my mom and granddad would scramble up $80 at the beginning of the month, and I had to live off of it. So
Right.
that's the honest truth. So
No,
yeah, NIL. If I could fast forward to here, there's no more struggles.
right. Okay. I like that. Okay. The best three pieces of advice for high school and especially college students who want to be an agent or get into sports marketing that have no experience and they can't really get it. Or they're
Have
trying,
no experience and can't
they're,
really get it.
well, they have no experience. And because they have no experience, they can't really get a job to get the experience.
Right. Well, I say this. In our business, the children are always the goal. You know what I mean? He who has the goal controls the business. So
Right.
I went and coached and established
Mhm.
myself as a good youth coach and established trust with parents with their
Right.
kids to take them out of town. And I established relationships with college coaches that knew who I was and knew I always had good players coming out of business. So I made my name around that area that way. And I've told kids that always come to me because there's been so many through the years. How can I get into the business? Do I need to go to law school? That would be great, but it's not going to get you a player.
Right.
Go and try to meet the director of Team Thad or Ernie Kuiper with uh, Mike Miller's team that's there. Go and find you a credible Nike or Adidas program and intern, work, carry the water, get to know them.
Right.
Be a manager on the college program and get to know the players and let them see you handle business.
Right.
It's going to be it's going to be a lot of work for nothing, but that's with any internship. So you can get in it. It's a hard business to get in. It's really a hard business to stay in. But you know, if you're willing you got to foster relationships with the
Yeah.
players. You got a player, you can get a job. That's
Right.
simple as that.
Right. Okay. So, what do you think your biggest value is to others today?
My biggest value to others today, when you say others, like other what? Just
Other people, just other people, or in the industry.
in the industry, I think
Yeah.
I've seen it change so much. I just think I've got a wealth of advice for people and
Mhm.
experiences and understand, I did know NIL was coming 5 or 6 years before it was coming. I did know that kids were going to be able to get paid in high school 5 years before. I've always been able to forecast these things because the people that I do deal with are at the top of the
Sure.
industry in the shoe company. So I think that my relationships have always allowed me to be a step ahead of everybody in the business, and I kind of know what the path is going for the next 2 years. So I just offer, somebody that's not ever trying to steal your client, that just tries to stay in my lane, but somebody that, uh, whoever you are, if it's respect there, you can always ask me and I'll give you the honest truth about the business. And if I can help you, I'm always that person. You know what I mean? I don't mind helping other people, even if they're
Right.
competitors.
I like that approach. Last question. If you could go back and talk to your 9-year-old self, what would you say to a 9-year-old Travis?
What would I say to a 9-year-old Travis?
What would you say to you as a
What,
9-year-old?
what would I say to myself as a 9-year-old?
Yes.
Um, I probably would just say, you know, don't fall in love early. Now, I love the fact that I got the kids, but I was a dad really quick. You know what I mean?
Right.
And had to grow up really, really quick. But I probably would have just say stay disciplined. I be honest with you, Sandy. I really wouldn't change anything. Like I
Right.
had, with all the stuff that I've gone through. I'm living my dream job. I live, I live nice. You know what I mean? I'm not the richest or wealthiest guy, but it doesn't equate to money. My kids are healthy, my
Right.
family's good. You know what I mean? I'm healthy, and I wake up in 73-degree weather and get to do what I want to do for the most part, and love my clients, and I feel like they love me, so I'm great.
I like that answer because all of our bad stuff, all of our good stuff, it makes up who we are, and that's a
Exactly.
wealth of value that's right there. Okay, so
Absolutely.
where can everybody find you on social media or your website?
Oh man, social media. I'm International T King
Mhm.
on IG. I don't really do Twitter, or X or whatever it's called now. It's T King Tweets, and then our company website is the Family FAMILIE,
Okay.
thefamily.com.
Okay.
That's our sports agency. But yeah, reach out.
Okay,
I
I'll put
really
all of
appreciate you putting me on. I love talking to you. This is good.
I will put all of that into the show notes and on the YouTube video. Thank you so much for doing this for me today. I so appreciate it. I have a long list of people and I've been trying to kind of space them out, and I actually started this off the on the sideline thing just so I could talk to other people that have to do with sports because I think
For
it's
sure.
fascinating. And we all learned a little bit more about you now.
Yeah, I
Um
hate talking about myself, but I appreciate the opportunity, though.
Okay, thank you all for listening, especially if you've made it all the way to this part of the show. I appreciate all of your support. Another reminder to subscribe to the show wherever you listen or watch. My mantra is like, share, and review. Follow us on social media at 5THQRT Podcast. Until next time, remember, change is our ally and it paves the way for greatness. Stay inspired. Have a great rest of the week.